graduated from University of Wisconsin-La Crosse, and I need to call it La Crosse State. That's a better reference for me because that's what it was when I attended. Was 1963, and prior to graduation, I was told by a couple of well-meaning instructors that I needed to change my major and change my goals. My goal on entering college was to become a high school track coach, physical education teacher, and work my way up to where I could go to the West Coast and join the U.S. Olympic movement and get involved in coaching track. I was told by a couple of instructors that in Wisconsin in those days, Orby, you need to go into elementary education. They just are not going to hire a black, as we were called in those days, in high school athletics. Everybody that has been here before you, and there were two students here that I met, both of them on the track team before me. One got me interested in coming to La Crosse State, and they had changed their mind to go into elementary education so they could get a job. I guess I was hard-headed enough and stubborn enough, and I stuck with my goal, and I did get hired at a junior high school upon graduation in Racine, Wisconsin. I taught at the junior high school for 4 years, and then I was selected to go with teachers to a new high school they were building in the outskirts of Racine, and they were going to integrate the student body, bus students from the inner city of Racine to that high school. That high school was Jerome I High School. I was among a select few teachers to go out there because they thought we could handle that situation. It was an honor. It was a brand new school. For me, the track facilities were brand new, an indoor track, which was unheard of at that time almost. I taught there for 6 years, and then Tom Razondich, who people know around the university, convinced me to get into administration. I thought about it. I took a job in the Racine Unified School District as the assistant personnel director. My job was to travel throughout the South, recruit teachers, bring them to the North, and be very selective and try to pick people who I thought could make that transition from the Southern schools, the Gramblings, Southern University, etc., and come to the North and be a success. That was not my thing. I did it for 1 year, driving from Racine to O'Hare, flying out in the morning at O'Hare, renting a car, traveling all over the South to all of those schools, and then the SWAC conference, and talking to teachers. As I said, I did it for 1 year, and that was enough. Mr. Rozanich had left Parkside, University of Wisconsin Parkside, where he was the athletic director, and left my name with then the new athletic director as somebody who they might want to look at, and I was hired as assistant athletic director at Parkside. While at Parkside, my job was twofold. I was also assistant wrestling coach. And as you may have heard in the event earlier today, I went to a wrestling tournament and saw a coach just berate his athlete, calling him chicken, calling him yellow, and his athlete was getting pinned. And never once did I hear him tell him how to get off his back. Get off your back, you're chicken. That's, and holler. And I decided then that, those people don't need to be coaching. And if they cannot make that transition to motivate students and be a positive person in their life, there's no way they need to be coaching. And I decided that I wanted to become an athletic director so I could weed out some of those coaches who just didn't belong. And, it's sorry today, we still have some of those coaches that just don't belong. But that's how I got to be an athletic director, and from there it's been just 30-some years at 7 different campuses, as the AD. I worked at a number of historically black institutions. The first job I had, like I say, was at Parkside. A member of the University of Wisconsin system, plenty of money in the athletic program for what they were trying to do at that time. I went from there to a Catholic school over in Michigan. They wanted me, I was the AD. I was also going to coach women's volleyball because it was a Title IX era, and we needed to add women's sports. Siena Heights College, they wanted me to recruit 10 track people who maybe could run 112 seconds, which is very moving, rather than me recruit one star athlete, because they were concerned with enrollment. And they wanted a lot of students in rather than just star students, and that wasn't where my head was at the time. So I left after 1 year. I was fortunate to get hired at the University of District of Columbia in Washington, D.C. Brand new school. They were merging 3 schools in the district, Miners Teachers College, Federal City College, and DC Teachers College. And I was the first athletic director there. Got to put together that whole program, from the mascot, the school fight song, school colors, hire all the coaches. We had a good time. Got to hire a basketball coach that took us in 3 years that he was there to the national championship in Division II in the NCAA. Went to A&T, North Carolina A&T in Greensboro. A great experience. And go back to UDC. That's where I learned the politics of intercollegiate athletics. DC was just such a political town, and everything that was happening, you had to find out all the story behind it. But I did go to North Carolina A&T, had a good time there. We had a basketball coach who was very successful, an excellent teacher. And when I talk about being a coach and a teacher and understanding the relationship, this guy was among the best. Don Corbett, and he won the conference 8 years in a row while I was there. So we went to the big dance, the NCAA tournament, 8 years in a row. Unfortunately, we never won that first round game because those were the days they were pairing the 16th seed against the number 1 seed. In those days, we played Syracuse. We played Oklahoma with Wayman Tinsdale. And I remember going to a press conference, and they were interviewing all of the star players, and Wayman was sitting up there, and Wayman says, they asked him, well, what about your opponent in this first round, the Aggies of North Carolina A&T? And Wayman said, I never heard of A&T. So that kind of gives you a little perspective about where we were as a name in athletics, but had a good 8 years there. And in the black institutions, you get to a point where there's limited resources. And when there's the alumni and the fans, they want more achievement. But you reach a stage where the money is kind of stabilizing. I find it is time to leave, because you cannot achieve any more unless they're going to get more money, more budget, bigger budgets. I went from A&T to Georgia State. Now there was a big change. Georgia State in the middle of Atlanta with a big budget. We had in Georgia State in our athletics budget as much money as North Carolina A&T had in their whole athletic program. Was fortunate, hired a big name coach, Lefty Dressel. And Lefty went on, and the year that I left, he worked with me for 2 or 3 years. The year that I left in Georgia State, Lefty beat the University of Wisconsin the first round in the NCAA tournament. From Georgia State, I went to I went to Norfolk State University as the assistant vice president for student affairs and the athletics director. Had a great experience there. Stayed there for 6 years, and then I was ready to move out of athletics. I went to Maryland Eastern Shore, the University of Maryland at Eastern Shore, as a director of student services. 1 year there, and we decided to retire. My aunt in the 50s was a teacher at Southern Illinois University. She taught French and English. Amazing. At Southern Illinois, a African-American woman teaching. I knew from day one when I got to thinking about college that I was going to be going to college, and that a college education was going to be in my future. There was never any question. My parents helped me get to school. I got what I thought was a little scholarship. I forgot even how much it cost to go to school then, but I got some help because I was on the track team, and I think tuition was like $150 tuition. Yeah, I don't know if you can believe that, but I think I got $50 as a scholarship. My high school, my track coach was a graduate of the University of Wisconsin-La Crosse. He just impressed me as the kind of person, the kind of job, the profession that I wanted to have, Artie Arstead. And Artie, I think, retired from teaching at Logan and came to the university as the registrar. Artie was an excellent guy from Viroqua. When I was in high school, he brought us down to the university so that we could, kind of get familiar with bigger time track, meet some of the track stars here, and there were a couple of stars that made an impression on me. Billy Provine, who was here in the 50s, held all kinds of track records. I think he was the first big time, not only ability-wise, but physical, size-wise athlete that I met in my life. And later on, when I came, there was another athlete that was running track from Racine, Wesley Mooney. He was a star on a football team and a track star. They had an impact on me. That's where I wanted to go. I'm up from the north side of La Crosse. I went to Logan High School. Great experience. I might have been very naive because our family was one of the few black families in the city. Because there were only a few black families in the city, there were not a lot of racial issues. And I guess because there's only one or two of them, and it's Orby and his brothers. And everybody knows Orby and his brothers. And so my experience in high school was excellent. It was, of course, 99.9% white. There was Wesley Mooney on the track team. He was a junior when I came in as a freshman. Another athlete, a wrestler, came from Racine during my freshman year. I think I was about maybe a junior, and a couple of students came from Africa. There was a handful of Asian students, but that was it. There might not have been a dozen, quote, minority students here on campus. I guess we just kind of blended in and did our thing. It was a different experience than what's happening today, I'm sure. No, and I think because there were so few, they probably didn't feel a need for that. there were some individual instructors who took us kind of under their wing, and Dr. Don Willie, who became my advisor. I chose speech as a minor, and Dr. Willie became not only my advisor but a close friend. He was very involved in jazz, and Duke Ellington was one of his friends. Duke Ellington came to La Crosse way back when my dad and mother were young, and I believe he played a concert at what was used to be called the Avalon Ballroom. And the Avalon Ballroom was like 3 blocks from our house. So all of the black entertainers got word that there was a black barber in town, and they knew of our family and used to visit my dad's barber shop and visit our home. And I was too young to know who they were, really. But I'm told now who have come through our house, and it was interesting. On Copeland Avenue, which right now there is nothing on that corner. The barber shop was on the corner. There was a small house next to it where I was born, and my dad had a bigger home moved by a friend of ours. Swanson's Moving Company moved a house behind the barber shop, and part of the house was too big for the lot, so they actually cut off a room on the house and moved it next to the barber shop, and that became my home where I was born. We later moved to, and I'm going to say this, you're going to laugh, the big house. But that was our area. Good times were membership in the fraternity. I met some people that probably never even talked to a black person before they met me. From the south side of Milwaukee, from some of the suburbs of Chicago. They were in this fraternity that I pledged. The guy that I spoke to about earlier, Wes Mooney, was a member of that fraternity. Those guys are friends to this day. Those were some good times because our fraternity was one of the most well thought of and accomplished fraternities on campus. In those days, we had different contests between the fraternities and sororities, and I remember one year we won everything. Those were good times. Working on the homecoming dance decorations was a fun time. The track team was a fun time. Met some people on the track squad that are friends today. In fact, we had a class reunion for 50 years, and one of the guys on our track team came back, Dion Wheeler. We were on the track team, and I don't know, it was a great time. Some of the challenges, I guess I was a pretty good student after I was convinced to come back to school because I was on the verge of dropping out at one time. Freshman year, I think I was like all other most freshmen, a new experience, didn't know what I was doing, caught up in the social life. The end of my freshman year, in those days, I don't know what students get today when they get warned about their lack of academic achievement, but I got a pink slip. And the pink slip was you had to go talk to the dean of students. You had to explain why you weren't making satisfactory progress academically. I never did go talk to that dean, but I decided after that freshman year, when summer came around, I was just going to drop out. That college was not the thing I wanted to be. And plus, all my other friends from high school had gone to work, had a job, and bought a car. And here I was, like 19 years old. They had a car. I was going to go to Racine, Kenosha area, work in American Motors. So they were a big employer at that time, and buy a car. One of those guys from the fraternity found me during the summer and convinced me to come back and talk to Dr. Willie. Dr. Willie convinced me that there was no reason to start doubting myself now, that he asked me to just go over your life in high school and go over your life in grade school, and everything that you wanted to do, you accomplished. So why are you doubting yourself now? He said, once you establish a pattern of success, it's hard to break it. After about an hour, he convinced me to re-enroll. And I did, and maybe the rest is history, because I got a good education here. Led me to my career in athletics, and Doc Willie played a big role in that. Right, I think junior, senior year, I was asked to be like a teaching assistant, and one of the challenges, I thought I had a lot of authority. I was teaching and overseeing a life-saving class, and I thought they had done enough work, so I excused them early. And the instructor came in and asked where was the class, and I said, I think we're finished for the day. I let them go. And I had to go have a talk with him for about a half hour about you just don't let students go on your own here, etc. But I don't know, I didn't have a lot of negative experiences. I was very fortunate. I've been very blessed in my college days. In the city, you know, 3rd Street has got a reputation, and 3rd Street was there when I was in school. There were certain places down on 3rd Street that we would go on the weekend, beer drinking places, and we'd run into some people that weren't familiar with La Crosse or familiar with the athletes and that, and there may have been some words called, but I was always with almost a protective coat of fraternity brothers. So I was shielded from that experience. I remember up Granddad's Bluff, there's a bar up there we used to frequent now and then, Shorty's. I think it's called Shorty's. But anyway, we were up there one night with a member of the football team, was with us, a guy I graduated from high school. And we were all having a good time, and one of the students that was with me here tonight, Tony Kruger, said, "Come on, Orb, we're getting ready to go." And I didn't know why we were rushing. But with the football player that I graduated with had just hit somebody. And because Tony told me later, somebody said something about the nigger over there. And that's another situation where I guess they were shielding me from that kind of situation. Yeah, I was teaching junior high school. It was I don't know how to recall those days. You know, it was the news came, and all I remember is things got very quiet because I was teaching in a city that was going through some racial strife itself. When I graduated and went to the city, I had picked out an apartment, and I was denied being able to rent that apartment. The apartment property was being held in trust by a bank, and the local NAACP got behind my case, and we picketed right through the winter in Wisconsin. The bank and finally had a role in changing some of the fair housing laws for the state of Wisconsin. That property held in trust could not be discriminatory in how they handled it. I didn't make an effort to, let's say, blaze a trail. I think my whole effort was be a role model in how you conduct yourself. Always being conscious of you can make it, you've got to be focused, you've got to be stubborn in some areas. And I'll say it's trite, you can't let anybody turn you around, because I was asked to be turned around several times, to give up my dream of teaching and coaching at a higher level than being an elementary school teacher. Track played a big role in that. Being a fairly good athlete, I was known around the city, around all of the Cooley region. And then when I got to coach, we accomplished a state championship as a high school at Case. Through the help of Tom Razondich, who I mentioned earlier, established the Wisconsin State Track Coaches Association, and one of the first track clinics for high school coaches at Case, and I was the organizer of that. But it was through my accomplishments in track. I was a sprinter. I did a little bit of everything. I was a sprinter. And in those days it was a 100-yard dash. Ran on the relay teams, and I pole vaulted. Pole vaulting in those days with a metal pole that did not bend. You go back and look at some of the Olympics, and I guess the best name was Reverend Bob Richards. Pole vaulting, or the pole, and they show you up there, and I think my height was 11 feet with a steel pole. Unfortunately, I think we had the years where a lot of blacks were being hired in college sports to coach. Sort of the philosophy of, well, we'll hire him, and if he wins, okay. If not, we've given him a chance, or we've given them a chance. The best example comes to my life is Nolan Richardson at Arkansas. I was totally shocked and blown away when Arkansas hired Nolan Richardson. Nolan went there for a few years, did very well. Soon as he had a down year, he was gone. And that too often was the case with a lot of black coaches. They got a chance. If they win, okay. If not, we've made an effort to integrate coaching and sports. Today it seems like they've almost gone backwards, probably, and it looks to be following the same tenor of the society in America today. Looks like we're digressing back instead of continuing to make progress in diversity. Well, I'd like to think that Yeah, you're making progress here at La Crosse. Your presence here with the program that you lead is a step that we probably wouldn't have thought of when I was here. Again, because you have a bigger presence of minority students. The simple fact that Dr. Parker was able to establish an award here on campus to recognize some of the black graduates of the university is a step in the right direction. No, offhand I can't. I'm probably not shocked by anything that happens these days.
Sure.
The education that I got here was one of the best in physical education. The days that I went to the UW-La Crosse, or La Crosse State, we were known to have one of the best physical education teacher programs in the nation. And people that I met in the NCAA nationally, and when we sat down in committees and you mentioned where you graduated from, where was your bachelor's degree, and I would say La Crosse, their ears would perk up because the education here taught us a lot of things, and the true link between teaching, being a good teacher, being a good coach. You had to be a good teacher to be a good coach. You don't just be a good athlete and go coach. It just doesn't happen that way. And linking teaching, the teacher education, and sports and athletics was taught here. I have to assume they're different. I can't name 1, 2, 3 what is different. The technology and everything is different. The internet is different. We spent hours in the library going through hard copy of books, and I know I look at my grandkids. They don't go to books; they go to the internet, and for all of their information. So. I think students are different in that way. I'm not so sure that they're different. They dress different. They have different styles, how they carry themselves. All of the tattoos and body markings. That wouldn't have been done in our day. But we were wearing afros and dashikis and things like that, and there's not many of those around today. So there's a difference. Every age has its own characteristics. It depends on where they come from. If they're coming from a black atmosphere, a black society, I think they have to come here with the idea that they may have to change some of their thoughts. They've got to be very focused on what they're here for. I was talking to a young man earlier today and telling him, even though there is fun to be had, but you're going to be one of the few, and it's going to be difficult. There may be some lonely days for you. But I think you can find some friendships and some relationships here that probably go with you for life if they're truly your friend. I don't know if you can tell anybody anything. I think it's got to be in your heart where you're going to accept other people for who they are, not what they look like. Um, it's hard. As I said, some of my friends that I got to know in college here probably never had a black friend. And I doubt if some of them ever went to school with any black people, African Americans, that you call us today. But I think their heart was in the right place, and that's the only reason that we became friends. I don't think you can tell them anything. I don't know, when I was teaching and as an administrator, I tried to just treat everybody the same. It made no difference if you're black or white or if you're Asian. And maybe it's difficult for students to grasp that, yes, Coach Moss is saying that, but over time, I think they find out that yet he is pretty true to what he says, and after a while they accept that leadership that I was trying to provide for instructors, for the faculty here at La Crosse State, University of Wisconsin-La Crosse. It depends on where they came from, their backgrounds. You know, one of the instructors I had came from the University of Texas. And I might have had preconceived ideas how I was going to be treated by that person coming from the University of Texas. Big, tall guy, and he used to come in sometimes with boots on, cowboy boots. And maybe, I think my first impression was, this guy and I just are not going to get along. Come to find out, he treated me as fair as anybody else. So, you know, you can't tell people what to think. I think they've got to learn that. I've come in contact with thousands of students from all kinds of backgrounds, all kinds of abilities, all kinds of goals, aspirations, and I remember talking to a football team one time after we were going to release the head coach, and I was telling them why and all of this, and I told this team of about 60-some athletes, and some of them, I told them they had better concentrate on their academics, because very few of you, and the records show, the facts show, are going to make it in the NFL. You know, and the assistant coach came up to me afterwards and said, you know, you just killed the dreams of a lot of guys. I said, I wasn't trying to kill the dreams. The ones that have the ability are going to keep shining anyway. The majority of them, out of the 65 people on that team, 60 of them better get a degree. And I think I give back in that way, try and be honest with the students. Same way with the coaches and support staff. Hundreds of them were under my leadership, and oftentimes had to counsel some of them that maybe you don't need to be the volleyball coach. Maybe it's better that you be on the administrative side. I gave back in that way, I think. My wife, Grace Moss, member of my team, and we make a good team. I think that's the best thing to say, because when I decided to leave a school and go to another campus, Grace never objected. She went out, and the new city, she would locate a house for us. She'd drive around. She knew the city better than I, because I was leaving home, going to office, going to work, and if we wanted to go somewhere else in the city, I depended on her to know where it was. tailgating. She was there to help after football games to entertain the fans and boosters. We entertained at our house with athletes. When a team would win a championship, we would traditionally have them at the house for dinner and let the students have a good time. Grace never asked where we were going. And I like to say all she ever asked was, what's the new school colors? Because she was going to buy some new clothes. Well, I appreciate the opportunity to come and interview with you. I was honored today to be a part of the alumni that were honored with the awards for the university at graduation weekend. Hopefully this interview will encourage some students that I used to speak at NCAA conventions and seminars, and a lot of the aspiring assistant athletic directors would seek out my advice, and maybe this would be the same thing for students who want to be an athletic administrator. I'm willing, and you have my email address, and I'm out there, and maybe I can give back in my retirement. They can contact me.